welcome. Thank you so much. I start by saying I am not a good public speaker. Some of you have met me one-on-one or with your families or at events, but this is not my area of expertise, so I will do the best I can here. So my name is Cynthia Clyburn. I'm a license of clinical social work. And what I do is I work at the South Carolina Alzheimer's Network. But like Sarah said, before this I had a private practice in what I call care consulting and psychotherapy, counseling for caregivers and families affected by Alzheimer's disease or other neurological impairments. But today we're going to talk a little bit about strategies for coping with grief, loss, and caregiver burnout. All right, this is a little shameless self-promotion, but I did want to tell you a little bit about my journey. I actually got my start here at Respite Care of Charleston about 15 years ago. I was in college, and I was one of those college kids that switched majors about 20 times. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I landed on sociology because it was very broad. And I had to take a class called gerontology. I had to Google the word. I didn't know what gerontology meant, but it's the social study of aging. And at the time, my professor had arranged for this sort of internship to volunteer at Respite Care of Charleston. I don't personally have a big family history of dementia, and it was my first time really working with folks living with dementia symptoms, and I was so terrified going in. And I ended up absolutely loving it. It was such a great experience. And so if anybody has ever actually been a fly on the wall during the programs here, it's so much fun, and it inspired a career for me. So from there, I was a home care coordinator at Home Instead, and I got to travel all across the Charleston area, helping folks get started with a care plan, and matching them with the right caregiver for their needs. I would see people coming out of the hospital after experiencing a stroke. I would see folks living with Alzheimer's disease, more moderate stages, and we would coordinate the care and support in their homes. And that was an incredible opportunity as well. And I really felt like I also, Christine, I don't know if I can speak for you, but when I was doing this job, I was in my early 20s, and I feel like I was often the on-call caregiver, so I had a lot of hands-on experience, which was great. I would go in and fill shifts, and so it was a wonderful experience to be able to process what that, even just a few minutes, a couple of hours in a true caregiver's shoes. From there, I went to grad school up in Philadelphia, and we had an internship. I had 2 clinical internships. You do a year-long rotation during grad school, and I was placed at the Penn Memory Center, which is a big research institution in Philadelphia, and it's specifically for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And then I was subsequently hired by that practice to provide support group facilitation, counseling, caregiver resources for patients and families. And then 3 years ago, I moved back here and was welcomed with open arms by all of you, and started a private practice in Charleston, supporting adults and families affected by neurological conditions. That being said, private practice is lonely, and I missed working on a team. And so recently I have joined the South Carolina Alzheimer's Network, which is a new clinic at MUSC. It is dedicated to getting folks in sooner and getting them a diagnosis at an early stage of whatever they are coping with, whether it's Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia. Some people, we have folks come in that feel like they're experiencing a lot of symptoms, and yet we do all of our testing and we realize that they're quote normal aging, and so we give people peace of mind, or we give them a treatment plan. We're a multidisciplinary site where we have nurse practitioners, myself, care navigators are social workers or registered nurses, and we also coordinate care with your primary care physicians. And I'll talk a little bit about how to be referred to our clinic at the end of this session, if you're interested. And then finally, at the South Carolina Alzheimer's Network, we are implementing a new model of care from CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So we're implementing a new model of care starting in July. This is for MUSC patients who carry a diagnosis of a dementia level of impairment. And it actually provides some additional care navigation services for caregivers, resource coordination, and then it pays for a small stipend of respite services every year, which is the first time, as many of you I'm sure are learning, Medicare does not cover things like adult day programs, home care, a lot of the additional support that you need. So this is the first time that Medicare is going to offer some coverage for that. So I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about that if you have questions. And again, that kicks off in July. But we'll get into today's discussion, which is to describe the psychosocial stressors experienced by caregivers, including depression, anxiety, and what I call compassion fatigue, which is often also called burnout, caregiver burnout. And we're going to identify how grief can impact individuals and families living with dementia. So we often talk a lot about psychosocial concerns faced by the patient living with Alzheimer's disease. The person with Alzheimer's disease will experience obviously gradual changes in functional abilities, loss of independence. If they're of working age, or they often lose their job, and a sense of purpose, connection, they experience social isolation, boredom, obviously a lack of affordable access to resources, changes in relationships. We talk about a lot of this in terms of when you meet with your providers and when you get additional support and resources, we talk about the experience of the patient themselves that has been diagnosed. And yet we don't often talk about how that affects the caregiver as well. And so I'm so happy that you're all here, because it shows that you're connecting with one another and acknowledging this experience for each other, and trying to support one another. So what are the psychosocial concerns for family? Changes in roles and responsibilities, grief and loss experienced throughout the diagnosis and the progression of the disease, could be a loss of household income, or losing their own jobs if you're a caregiver and you are actively working, and then or connected with something that was a position of volunteering or something along those lines, and then you realize that you are juggling to do it all, and many people end up pursuing those activities for themselves. So there's a loss in their own jobs and their own roles and connections with society. Changes in relationships, social isolation that's experienced by caregivers, and again, lack of available and affordable resources. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about depression and anxiety and the increased risk of health concerns as well. So caregivers experience higher rates of depression and anxiety. The prevalence of depression among dementia caregivers is actually 35% higher than caregivers of those not caring for somebody with dementia. So the rate of depression is much higher than someone experiencing caregiving for a different condition. Compared with caregivers that are caring for somebody without dementia, caregivers of those with dementia indicate more substantial financial, emotional, and physical strain. 59% of caregivers report experiencing high or very high levels of stress, and 74% of caregivers are concerned about their own health and well-being. 27% of caregivers reporting that they neglect their own healthcare needs. They don't go to the doctor. They say, I'm not the one with the diagnosis. I'm not going to follow up with the doctor. I just don't have time. Dementia caregivers experience more than twice the amount of out-of-pocket medical and care costs than those of non-dementia caregivers. And so when I'm talking about non-dementia caregivers, I'm thinking about other conditions, right? So even when we think about the course of cancer, of Of course, you wouldn't wish that on anyone. But there is more coverage often for some of the medical treatments and support that you get. And then there's also an additional stress. And I think I hear this a lot from caregivers, and I don't ever want to judge this statement, but sometimes I hear that, gosh, it feels like cancer or something else would be easier than coping with this. And people are often afraid to acknowledge that feeling, and they feel guilty to even say that. But the truth is, there's such different dynamics when you're coping with somebody who's living with dementia and you're caregiving for them. You want to be able to have a conversation about what's the trajectory, what are our plans in caring for you, what do we need? Are we acknowledging each other's emotions and feelings in all of this? Are we acknowledging the strain that this is having on our entire family? And sometimes folks living with a different illness, like ALS or cancer or you name it, they can have these intimate conversations about their fears and their concerns, and there's this level of empathy. And then sometimes with Alzheimer's disease, that awareness can be there, but sometimes the full picture is not there. The full picture meaning I see how much things have changed, and I see how much things are going to change in the future. I see the writing on the wall. I know things are going to be different in the future. And it's caregivers that carry that narrative. They see the full trajectory of it. They've seen all that has happened and all that has changed and that you have lost, and they see and know what to expect. Of course, we don't always know exactly what to expect, but they know that things are going to change in the future. So I think that's what contributes to a lot of the additional stress that caregivers experience. I'm going to define 3 different types of loss. We talk about grief a lot. We don't really talk about grief as much as we need to. Even in this society, we avoid talking about death in general. But I'm actually not going to talk about grief in the form of death or a finite loss. I'm going to talk about grief in the form of living losses. So these are living losses. 3 different types are ambiguous loss, anticipatory grief, and secondary losses. Has anybody heard of any of these terms in the past? Okay. So I'll define them for you. Ambiguous loss is a type of loss without clarity and closure, making it difficult to move forward and process. So ambiguous loss was first coined by Pauline Boss in the 1970s. She is a psychologist, and she actually studied this and coined this, studying victims and families affected by a tsunami. And it was interesting because she was studying the severity of their grief and the psychological impact that it had on people. And she found that the lack of closure, the lack of this ability to, when somebody is lost in a tsunami, you don't have the body 99% of the time. People wash away. And families were really affected by this because there was this lack of finite detail about their loved one. They were in their minds, they could not move forward because they were missing their loved ones, and yet they couldn't acknowledge their grief and their passing because they couldn't go through the normal rituals of a funeral, of this acknowledgement. So they were living with this sort of ambiguity. And then she started to study this in the reverse. So what happens when the person is physically still present and yet psychologically absent in some way? Dementia might be changing their personality, the things that make them them, their function, their memories, their connection to you, right? That's a loss, that's a grief, that's a change that it's difficult to put words to. So psychological ambiguous loss occurs again when a person is physically present, but in some ways absent. You can't access them in the same way that you could. And there's so much stress for caregivers that, again, we want to be grateful and say we're so grateful for the person's function and that we still have them here, and yet it's hard to acknowledge it as a loss, as a change. So that's ambiguous loss, and I'll give us some tips on how to cope with that feeling. One major tip is just defining it and recognizing that that might be something that you're experiencing. There's also anticipatory grief. People can experience anticipatory grief at the time of a diagnosis, the person with dementia themselves or their family members. This is experiencing grief before the anticipated loss. So you could be very mildly affected, and yet you begin to mourn a future that may never exist. When you get a diagnosis like that, you feel like you automatically, the clock is ticking, and there is this feeling of losses that are to come. And then finally, secondary losses. And these are all of the cumulative, smaller losses that occur over time. So meaning a loss where you had this dream retirement vacation built up in your mind, and you're realizing that's not going to happen. That's a loss. That's a secondary loss. The primary loss being the changes associated with Alzheimer's disease, right? But the secondary loss being the things that are to come, right? If we can't drive any longer, if we can no longer have an intimate conversation with our loved ones, not being able to attend a wedding of a close relative because you're worried that your loved one will struggle to tolerate that big overwhelming event. So those are secondary losses that build up and add stress and pressure, and again, we don't recognize that as a grieving process. So coping skills for living with grief. And notice that I say living with grief. I don't mean getting over grief. You don't really get over it. Whether somebody's lost due to a death or someone's changing due to Alzheimer's disease, you don't truly get over it, move on, that sort of thing. We live with it day to day. So the first thing we can do is acknowledge the change, acknowledge that things are different, and adapt your expectations and practices. So what I mean by that is if you have a family tradition of, let's say, your loved one carving the turkey at Thanksgiving, and you're realizing that the person's progression of their illness, it's affected them so much that they can't do that any longer. They can't do that successfully. So instead of not carving the turkey at all, why don't we adapt our expectations? Can you get your granddaughter to help carve the turkey, and your loved one hold the, I don't know, what's a little steaky thing called? Hold the pitchfork thing. So can you change your traditions to still incorporate the loved one, but not have this all or nothing thinking associated with it, where we're gonna just completely not go on the family vacation anymore. We're not gonna do this because it's not gonna be the same. I had a caregiver recently tell me that she didn't want to hire home care because her husband was this very accomplished person in their career, and they would never want assistance. They would never want to be in the position to have this helper come in and go for walks with them or have supervision. They would hate that. And yet, what's best for all of you, for the person with dementia and your family right now, would be to have some additional support and then have somebody who's fun and interesting and, a companion for your loved one. You have to meet them where you are. You have to adapt these old thinking patterns and move forward and meet the moment where you are. There's a lot to be said about the mindfulness movement, which is simply being present and acknowledging your circumstances without judgment, acknowledging your feelings without judgment, and meeting the needs of the present. And then I talk a lot about practicing both and thinking rather than either or thinking. So what do I mean by that? So both and thinking versus either or thinking means that we are holding space for both circumstances. So I have some examples here. I am both a caregiver and I am a person with my own needs, right? So in other words, you're not saying I'm a caregiver, but I can't deal with my own things because I'm a caregiver. You can have both. I both wish this disease would be over and I wish I had more time with my loved one. I'm both sad about my loved one's illness and I'm still looking forward to the future. I'm excited about my new grandchild. I'm excited about this volunteer opportunity, right? It's the practice of having both and acknowledging that you can have both. I'll talk a little bit about caregiver burnout, and then we're going to do a little bit of an activity. That's why I have the note cards and pens and whatnot. And we'll pass out any of you guys that didn't get them. I think we have plenty. But I'm going to talk about caregiver burnout, which in my profession, for those that are professional caregivers, for doctors, therapists, the Sarahs and the Wendy's of the world, we often call this compassion fatigue. And for caregivers, we call it caregiver burnout. Caregiver burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that can happen when you dedicate time and energy to manage the health and safety of someone else. So what are the signs of caregiver burnout? Someone experiencing emotional and physical exhaustion, withdrawal from friends, family, and other loved ones, loss of interest in activities you previously enjoyed, feeling hopeless and helpless, changes in appetite or weight, changes in sleep patterns, lack of the ability to concentrate, getting sick more often, feeling irritable, frustrated. Do these symptoms remind you of anything else? Depression. Yeah, right. It's a lot of the clinical criteria for depression as well. This state of being is very challenging. And if we don't address some of these signs and symptoms, then it really can lead to severe depression. So, how do we prevent caregiver burnout? A lot of this stuff is going to be repeat, and I know that you hear it all the time, but take care of your essential needs. Look at the basics: diet, exercise, socialization, rest, but then also continue to find meaningful, purposeful activities, hobbies, and interests. We so often forget that we need to do not just these stuff. Like, I can talk to you all day about getting your hair and nails done. That's great. But sometimes engaging in something meaningful, helping others, volunteering, although it feels like more of a task and you might not feel like you have the energy to do it, but if you are connected with a group and you find a sense of purpose, some way to give back, something that captures your interest in learning a new skill or meeting new people, again, volunteering in some way, sometimes that can be respite for yourself too. That can be nourishing to your soul. So finding, I don't want to put more work on your plate, but finding something meaningful and that makes you feel connected, that gives you a sense of purpose beyond just your role as a caregiver, which is a massive role, the top role, but investing in that time for yourself is very important. Go to counseling or a support group. I'm so happy you guys are all here. You're learning, you're invested in each other. Stay connected and honest with your friends. I'll give you some more feedback on the honesty part later. Obviously keep up with your medical appointments and then make appointments for your own self-care. So here's the activity. Who didn't get, if everybody can pass out some of the note cards and pens. Who needs pens? Who needs note cards? All right, do we have what we need? Raise your hand if you don't have what you need. That's a trick. That's a part of this. You gotta ask for help. That's part of this workshop here. Okay. All right, so here's the activity. If you can we're gonna use this whole note card thingy, index card. And if you can use the blank side first, I would like for you to have these 4 quadrants and separate it daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Now I have an example here. You don't have to copy what I said, but this activity is about making sure that you are setting time for your basics, for your essentials, for your self-care. What's gonna make you feel whole? What's gonna make you feel good every day, every week, every month, and every year? What do you need? These are appointments that you're gonna stick to for yourself at your goal every day. So I'll tell you what I have as an example. I have coffee out on my porch every morning. If I can have those 5 to 10 minutes to sip my coffee in peace and truly sit and be mindful and enjoy that moment, I'm getting ready for the day. I'm trying not to think about all of the challenges that are going to be happening. I'm trying to stay focused on that coffee for 10 minutes in the morning. I have a goal of walking the dog for at least a mile every day, and maybe a phone call with a friend or a family member. Weekly, I'd like to go to an exercise class at my local gym. Maybe lunch with a neighbor or a colleague, and go to the library for an hour for reading. Monthly, hair or nail appointment, attend a class, a workshop like this, a seminar, something interesting, and a nice dinner out. Not, don't have to go to halls or anything, but something nice. And then yearly, I don't have a daughter, but I put an example of vacation or a visit from a family member. I'd like to go to a very nice play or a concert, Spoleto is happening, and attend my own annual wellness visits. Which that's not fun, but it's kind of fun for me because I enjoy seeing if I'm on the right track in terms of my cholesterol and whatnot, so I included that in there for me. You don't have to include that in there for you. But I want to take a couple minutes here and you guys write out at least 3 objectives under each one for yourself. Yeah? Is it? Good. You and me. All right, it's okay if you're still working. Who wants to share one from their daily. Yes, Phyllis.
Exercise every morning.
Okay, what do you do for exercise every morning?
We have a program, it's called Grow Young Fitness.
Yes.
I do that every day.
Yes.
Meditate.
Meditate, yes. And how long do you meditate?
About 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes. That seems like a reasonable goal, yes.
So I walk with a friend who I've been walking with for about 20 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Anybody else?
I do games on New York Times, like the crossword.
Wordle,
Yeah,
yes.
and the spelling bee. I'll take that a step further. I do that as well, and I'm in a group chat with my kids and my nephews.
Yes.
And so every day, that's how we communicate. It starts with Planet Wordle.
Oh my goodness, I love that, I love that. So you can imagine too, it would be easy to skip those things. You know, you got a lot on your plate. It would be easy to say, I've just got too much, I won't go on my walk today. I can't play Wordle, I've got too much going on. But it makes all the difference in the world when you do. And so that's why we're writing these down and we're holding ourselves accountable for doing these activities on a daily basis because it builds up. Anybody have an example for a weekly objective?
Yoga class.
Yoga class, yes. Behind you?
Sailing with the veterans on deck.
Oh, I love that. That's cool. Yes.
Playing bridge with friends.
Perfect. Wonderful. All of these also, if you notice, the daily ones, except with the exception of yours, but there's a social connection with it too. The daily ones, there's a lot of independent time, but weekly it's seeming like there's a social connection. So you're doing both. There's exercise, there's mental stimulation, there's the beauty of being out on the water, but then you're also with people and not isolating yourself. That's really great. How about monthly? Yes.
We sign up for Best of Broadway series and go to them.
Okay.
It scans, sometimes it's every month,
Yes.
sometimes it skips.
That's fantastic. Where do they hold those?
At Performing Arts Center.
Oh, wow. Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. Best of Broadway at the Performing Arts Center. So I want us to steal ideas from one another too.
I'm part of an intention circle rooted in the book Power of Eight. And it's people from all over the world.
Wow.
I was invited by a friend who's in Paris, and so it's kind of nice. to
That's
connect with all these
interesting.
women. It's all women, of course.
Yes.
But, it's great.
That's fantastic.
But it's online.
Well,
Yeah.
but again, very interesting to connect with other folks and of all those different cultures as well. That's got to feel very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Repeat what she said.
She said she's a part of, is it your Circle of Eight?
Power of
Oh,
Eight.
Power of Eight.
Which is an intention, you're setting intentions for yourself for the week, or for the day, or for the month. And you have a group of people that focus on you during that period of time. It's an hour-long thing on Zoom, and it's with people you come to know really well because you're staying in the same circle. It's very good. Power of Eight. It's a book. It's a book.
Anybody else for monthly? Yes.
I meet a deceased client's daughter. I worked with this woman for like 15 years. Every month we go to lunch, we talk, we catch up. Her girls are now in college. One's at college. I'm like, wait a minute, I knew these girls since they were 9, 10 years
Wow.
old. And I look forward to that.
Yes.
And
That sounds very meaningful.
it is
Yeah.
for me.
Yes, absolutely. And for her too.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, and then how about yearly? Some examples of yearly goals for yourself keep you feeling whole. This one's hard. Yes.
I write a sermon once a year in memory of my mother. And it literally takes me months to get it the way I want it.
Yes.
To get a message through
Yes.
and to get it the way I want it. I've been doing this since '99. So
Oh, what a wonderful tradition.
yeah.
And
that means a lot to me.
And again, that's also honoring your mother, but also living with grief, right? Yeah, a good way of coping with that. And continuing that tradition is wonderful. I hear that a lot from people, actually. They write sort of a yearly newsletter. You get the holiday card, you know, and that's very important too. It's a good reflection. How about any other objectives yearly?
I want to travel.
Yes, make it happen.
It makes it hard. I really want to travel, but it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard, and you're all caregiving for loved ones, and I can sit here and just say, yeah, just go, as if that's so easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. But I think it is possible. It does take thinking out of the box. It could mean bringing your loved one with you, and going on a family trip so that everybody's kind of trading off responsibilities, or it means coordinating care at home and being accepting of the fact that you need that additional support. You need it for yourself, and then maybe it even works out to the point that somebody, I feel like you've probably seen this, but you know, someone needs to leave, they need to go out of town, they need a surgery or something like that, and you coordinate home care, you coordinate support, and the family is so anxious, this is gonna be terrible, it's gonna be a disaster, and yet everything goes fine.
Yeah, we just did one, she was caring for both parents, they both have dementia.
Yeah.
And we did 24/7 care for 4 days, and she went on a 4-day cruise.
Oh my gosh. And it worked out just
Yeah.
fine. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So I want you guys to keep these. I want you to edit them. I want you to keep them in your purse, in your wallet, and I want you to periodically look at them and say, am I holding up my end of the bargain here? My promise to myself. Okay. But keep the note cards out. Don't put them away just yet because we have another thing. Right. And now engaging your support system. So sometimes the financial resources aren't there to have home care, to have, unfortunately, Respite Care of Charleston makes things quite affordable, but you know, some other day programs can be very expensive. Memory care facilities, assisted living facilities are often very expensive. So first and foremost, especially if somebody is living with mild dementia symptoms, I encourage families to tap into their own support system, their own village network here. And so how often have any of you, whether it be at you know, your religious community or with your family, friends you haven't seen in a while, and you tell them what's going on, your loved one has Alzheimer's disease, and they say, oh gosh, and they mean this, but they say, please let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And what do y'all say? You say, oh, well, thank you, but yeah, we're fine. Thank you, that means a lot. That's what you say, isn't it? Right? I want y'all to have a true response to this. I think they're being genuine. 9 times out of 10, they're being very genuine. They want to help, they just don't know how. Really, they don't know what to do. They're not in your shoes. Have a response to the let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Be specific about what you need. And I'm speaking as an adult daughter too. I need my mom to tell me what she needs in terms of supporting my uncle. I need her to say, you know what, you need to take a weekend and give me a breather. You need to call the doctors and get them to reorder this prescription. You need them to, I need you to just come and take me and we go out for lunch and just not talk about caregiving for a little while. It alleviates my anxiety when she tells me exactly what she needs instead of saying, we're fine, we're okay. It's all right, we got it. Everything's normal, everything's status quo. Be specific about what you need, when you need it, where, how often, You can use a tool like creating a care calendar, especially if you have multiple people in your support system, adult kids, friends, neighbors that are offering to help you. Say, hey, actually, I have this care calendar. It's sort of like social media, like a Facebook meets a Google calendar, and we all write down things that times in which we're available to go for a walk with my loved one, or go out to lunch, or bring over some dinner. The care calendar that I like to use is called LOTSA Helping Hands, LOTSA, Helping Hands.
What is that gonna say, calendar?
It's a care calendar, and you can give your loved ones access to this care calendar. Anybody that says they want to help out, you can dictate some of the tasks, your availability, what you need. They can dictate their availability. It's also kind of nice when you've got multiple family members and you want to say in a nice way, you're not pulling your weight. They can see it on the calendar that you're doing this, this, and this, and maybe they could help out with this, this, and this.
Lots of.
Is it online?
It's online. It's called LOTSA Helping Hands. LOTSAHelpingHands.com.
Yes, go back.
LOTSAHelpinghands.com.
I was gonna help you, but you didn't.
I really struggled with that. There's a part of the test for one of the cognitive tests, and I struggle. Have you guys ever been in the room with your loved one when they're doing the MOCA or mini mental status exam, and then you gotta spell world backward, and you're going, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Sorry, Wendy.
In the disability rights community, they have a lot of folks have created what's called a support guide.
Yes.
And so they actually like write out very specifically the things that they need. And it could be like, send me a DoorDash, you know.
Yes.
Oh, do you have that now?
Yes. That's what I want you guys. You've teed me up perfectly, Wendy.
Yes. It's just usually it's like a Google Doc. A Google document, and they just have it, like everything there from like send me a DoorDash. This is my address. Obviously, send it to people you know. This is my Venmo. You know, if you would like to help me pay for a prescription.
Yes.
This is, you know, I go to this yoga class every day. Yeah. And so it's a document that you create, and then you can just send it out whenever somebody says, let me know how I can help you, say,
Oh, I got it.
And you can upload this document.
Fabulous. I love it. Well, that's exactly, so this is what's going to help us brainstorm for making that document. I want you all to flip over your note cards. And now I want us to make a list of tangible and specific ways in which people can help you. I have some examples. Wendy just gave us some great examples. Let's go out to dinner once a month. Weekdays after 6 are best for me. What did I do? I gave a specific time, date, how often, the frequency, right? The specific task. Then you put it in their court. You say, what day? What day once a month? Let's put it on the calendar. You might ask your loved one to come for a 3-day weekend once a quarter. Let's go ahead and plan this out for the rest of the year. Come every 3 months for a few days. 4 months. I really need my car oil changed. Can you pick it up and drop it off at the mechanic? Can you walk with my loved one once a week? What day works for you? I think I included this one for myself. My house needs to be power washed. Can somebody else call around and do the research for me? Can you call and get some quotes?
I'll give you a name. My house was power washed last week and it made me feel so good.
I need it. I do. I need it. I need
Oh
it.
my God, I felt so good. I couldn't believe it.
Yes. And those are the things. If you start to notice that, and I want you to keep notes for yourself. If there's something where you're going, gosh, I have so much to do, and I see that my house is getting actual green sludge built up on it, which is my case right now, on the bricks, but I just have so much to do. I can't prioritize that. No, put it on the list. Somebody else can call and get quotes and coordinate the power washer people to come and clean your house. Yes, Sarah?
I struggle with this a lot. I never want to ask for help because I don't want to be a burden. But somebody has pointed out to me the joy that I feel when I'm able to help someone else.
Yes.
And essentially by not letting others help me, then I'm kind of robbing them of that joy.
Yes.
And looking at it that way really kind of was a nice kick in the pants for me.
I totally agree. And I also, again, I feel like I have so much anxiety about, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't know what to do to help. And so when somebody does say, is what would make me feel better, this is what I need, I feel so good about stepping up and doing those things. It alleviates my own anxiety. It makes me feel connected, gives me a sense of purpose.
Do they also think something specific like you're talking about is really helpful for those of you who have out of town children, out of town relatives, out of town siblings who you're trying to coordinate the care? Because we talk to folks all the time, a daughter caring for her mom, and she's like, but my brother lives on the West Coast, and he wishes he could do something, but he just can't. I was like, oh, your brother can DoorDash you dinner once a week.
Right.
Your brother can pay for a house cleaner
That's right.
for you once a week. So I think having this specific list can be really useful for those folks who live away
Yes.
and want a tangible something to
Right.
do.
Absolutely.
And I've also fallen in the trap of, but they should know. They know what I'm struggling with. They should know what to do. And in theory, maybe, but sometimes being really specific and giving them, do I want them to know and read my mind, or do I want to have the help?
Yeah.
And so just saying and speaking up and saying, this is what I need.
Right. Right.
That's the way you get what you want from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have a comment. I have a son who lives away,
Yes.
and so he comes home once a month, and I keep a list on my table of all the things I need. And so when he comes home, he's looking for his list.
Yes.
He doesn't have a lot of time, but he knows exactly
Yes.
what I need to have done. He was the one who suggested it.
That's
I
That's
wanted to
amazing.
figure out, what I could use that time for. And he said, just bring me a list. And it's simple stuff like cleaning off the deck.
Right.
Whatever
Right.
it is that I need. It's reasonable.
Yes.
I just put on the list all month long.
And I know he feels good about doing that too. Yep. Yep. Does anybody else have any examples?
Well,
Yes.
I was just mine come home and they have things they want to do when they come home.
Sure.
Like one's coming tomorrow, yeah,
Go to the
so,
beach.
yeah, and then I end up doing more.
That's true. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. How do we then balance that quality time, right? And maybe that's how we pose it as well. But they can have their list of objectives of the fun Charleston things that they want to do, and if they want to see their friends that they haven't seen in a while, that's great. But
That's not why you're here.
that's also
Yeah, last month my other daughter said, y'all are really busy this week, is there a better time for me to come? And this is just this is our life.
right. This is right. No.
Yeah. So, okay, that's just a change in those expectations.
Yeah.
Well, I always was dependent on my husband to do things like change the filters, change all the batteries in the fire alarms,
Right.
and all of that kind of stuff, and which means you have to get up on a ladder and do all of that stuff. And, I tell my sons that's what I need them to do. I mean, it would take them 2 seconds.
Yep.
Or, when I need help with the computer or anything like that, I'm so tired of waiting for them to come to me.
Yep.
Finally, because they've got lives that they have to live.
Yeah.
And I end up oftentimes doing it myself. I change the filters of it.
Well, they're really not going to like it when you break your leg getting up on the ladder, right?
I tell the man on the phone, I'm 70 years old. I am on a ladder. You can't come over here and fix this. Whereas I wanna say it to my sons.
Yeah.
And I do, but they wanna wait till they can do it on Sunday and I need it on Tuesday. So, it's sort of hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I would say though, that was what I was gonna say. One thing that I would do is ahead of time, when you know these things do need to get taken care of, although you can't always plan for some of these things, but if it's like changing the filters, then I would say, don't give them an option, but say what day works best for you.
Right, I've got to be a little more assertive.
Right.
And they like to tell me what to do.
Yes.
You have so
I
much
just wanted
time in there, don't
to
you?
co-sign on making the list. My mother did that when my father had dementia. We live here, she lives in Georgia. So we planned a day where the siblings would come.
Right.
We would tackle that list from the top to the bottom.
Yes.
And it did make me feel good because I couldn't be here all the time.
Right.
This is my way of looking out for mom. Now my mom, which is one of the complaints my dad had before he passed away, she doesn't know when to stop. So it goes from, I'm doing this for mom, good old mom, to, oh my God, when is she gonna be done?
Right.
Keep that in mind with your list, but I think the list is a great idea.
Well, and doing the list may also make it easier for them if you've got 10 different things, which are all little things, and I do feel like you could just stop by and do this, because you said you'd do it for 6 months, like changing my gutter guards,
Yeah.
Joe. But if I can give him that list, I don't do it that way either, but that is smart, to give him the list and say, all right, I need you for 2 hours, will you just come and do these few things? And at least then it's more purposeful, when he does come by, I can be more of a happy master, yeah. Okay.
Grandchildren who are,
Yes.
13 and above.
Uh-huh.
One need to take a part in this family dysfunction going on
Mhm.
that we can't help. And they will learn so much
Yes.
just by saying, I need you to come put this up in the attic.
Yeah. Yep.
Simple things.
Get them to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yep.
The intergenerational connection is
Yes,
so good
it
for
is.
everybody.
It is, and even giving them, talking points to talk to their loved one with Alzheimer's disease. Talk to them about, their experiences growing up. Give them a list of questions to ask, and engage with their loved ones, and that would be a great way to hold their attention. Yes.
As a granddaughter, I love having a list when I go to my grandparents. So
Yes.
it's not a burden. It makes me feel so much better when I can take just little things away, make their days better.
Yeah.
And I learned so much. And I would always have those opportunities.
Yeah.
You think about after the class, you want to be with them.
Yes.
So having those little things.
Absolutely.
They mean a lot.
Absolutely.
It's like that commercial on television where the girl starts painting,
Uh-huh.
and then she starts knitting, and then she starts doing something else, and then you see her taking it over to grandma's house, and it made
Aw.
grandma so helpful,
Aw.
happy that she could help her finish the scarf or finish painting. They felt like they were needed,
Yeah. I love that.
Not to create more work for anyone, because that's certainly the thing of existence for those who are asking for help. But there are things that we can do. A lot of times folks will say, well, I don't know what to talk to my dad about, or, he doesn't say anything, or he just sits there. So to the extent that you can, let them know, hey, your dad really likes to talk about X, Y, Z. Ask him about this. Or, give them suggestions. Set them up to succeed and for that time to be meaningful for both them and your loved one. And then they'll be more willing to do it more often. Because if they sit there and offer silence, they're not getting the benefit for themselves. They don't want to do it more.
And picture albums, just pull up picture
Oh
albums.
yeah. Oh yeah. And well, even better, make your tech savvy daughter, granddaughter, whoever create a virtual picture album for you. That's another thing as well.
Well, I'm sorry. The groups that y'all do and the questions you discuss, sometimes that comes home with my loved one, but sharing those prompts with us would be very helpful. Because we would get past it. Because it's always like, what stories about those prompts would be good things we can pass on to loved ones as
Yeah.
well.
Good
And they
idea.
don't mind telling their story more than once,
We're still living in an age where our parents and grandparents, it was mandatory for them to be in the military, especially if you're with a man. Because I find it harder sometimes to bring up a subject, with a man.
Right.
Ask them what branch of the service they were in.
Sure.
Ask them what they did in the service.
Right.
Ask them the best place they lived while in the service. I mean, you could be all afternoon. And they love
Absolutely.
talking about.
Absolutely.
So that, keep that in mind. That's not gonna last 4 generations
Yeah.
now because it's not mandatory.
Or even, going back and looking at other historic events, even if your loved one wasn't in the military, where were you when JFK was shot? Tell me what happened there. I mean, think about other circumstances that maybe they want to reflect on or talk about, or so anyway.
One thing that, I don't know how to say it, but, things that my dementia husband might do, that at the moment that he and I are engaged in it, it is a catastrophe. But if you share it with another dementia caregiver,
Yeah.
it is hilarious.
Yeah, that's true. we all end up.
stories.
I have an example.
Let's hear it.
He unloaded a dirty dishwasher.
Oh,
I
great.
totally lost it.
Uh-huh.
I did it the other day. I mean, it was just like, because the soap didn't go good.
You're exactly right though. We find that humor is such a wonderful coping skill, and sometimes I'll come home and I'll tell a non-dementia person, I'll tell my boyfriend, a story about something, and he'll be like, that sounds really sad. I'm so sorry. And then you talk to the nurse and they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, we have to find humor. We have to find each other in all of this. And sometimes it's okay to be sad and acknowledge the moment as, man, this is really sad. This is really frustrating. But then also it's great to turn it into a laughable moment as well.
I have a better one. Someone shared this with me. She said to her husband, I don't really want to make dinner. I'm just going to make French toast. And he said, French toast? I don't think I've had that before. And she said, you're going to love it.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you.
I have one on that order. So the other day I told my husband, we're gonna have quiche and salad for dinner.
Uh-huh.
And he says, do I know them?
I love it.
Now, Cynthia, can I use this as a plug for our support groups here?
Yes.
Exactly what we do. I talk to folks who are like, I don't want to come to a support group because I don't want to sit around and spill my guts and tell my
these
story.
sob
I think
stories.
You get to be silent. You don't have to say a word, but we laugh all the time. I mean, I just cannot say enough good things about our caregiver support groups. We have 12 that meet all over Charleston County. We've got one specifically for children caring for parents.
Wow.
That meets online on Tuesday nights. So see Sarah or I afterwards. If you're not plugged in, who here is in a support group? Is in one of our support groups? I think you all can attest to the joy and laughter that we bring.
Alrighty, y'all. I'm having a great time, and thank you so much for making me feel at ease here and just being so engaging. But I have clinic this afternoon, so I've got to go in a little bit. This is a shameless plug for the South Carolina Alzheimer's Network, my clinic at MUSC. It's run by Dr. Nicholas Milano. He's a board-certified cognitive neurologist. If you guys are interested in whether it's a first opinion, second opinion, if you are interested in your eligibility for potential anti-amyloid therapies, things like that, you can ask your provider. Even if they're not associated with MUSC, you can ask your providers to submit an e-consult to to our clinic. It's basically a referral, and it's online. I don't know if I can click this link, but I'll have Sarah and Wendy, maybe can we share these slides?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'll have them share these slides with you so you have that link. But basically you go on our website at MUSC scan, and there's a little drop down menu for how to order an e-consult, but you would ask your provider to do so.
So you ask a neurologist that you're seeing to refer you to another neurologist? I mean, how's
Well,
that?
no, I wouldn't recommend unless
Well, I mean, I'm
unless you
interested-
wanted a second opinion.
I'm actually interested in this, so
Yeah.
how does that work?
An e-consult.
An e-consult is basically a referral.
I just say to my neurologist, oh, you know what, could you refer me to the e-consult?
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
And that's
But
basically,
I will say-
I'm in the process of firing him then.
Well,
I
would.
mean, essentially.
Well, I don't want you to do that
Well,
unless
I
you're not
do,
satisfied
actually.
with their care.
I'm
So
not.
so really though, what we provide at MUSC at SCAN is kind of temporary. We don't see you throughout your entire progression of the illness. It's mainly for diagnosis and support.
How about that guide? How does
At
that
the
fall?
guide program, that's where you catch me. You guys are 2 steps ahead of me. The
Okay.
guide program, we are
That's
running
what
that.
program?
We're running that with
Program.
guide, GUIDE. This one.
Oh,
Okay, so that's Marla.
That one is going to be held with MUSC Geriatrics and with MUSC Neuro as well. And so it's possible that you would be eligible for that program. That being said, there are criteria for Medicare with it. You have to have regular Medicare, not an Advantage plan. And then you have to have a diagnosis of dementia. It can't be mild cognitive impairment. It has to be a dementia impairment. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer's. It could be vascular dementia. It could be Lewy body dementia. But it's got to be a dementia level of impairment.
So how do we input, what would be my step to do that?
But your step to do that would be to be seen in geriatrics clinic through MUSC.
So how do you have to?
I don't know. You'd get a referral to
From your
a
primary?
geriatrician. Yes.
Okay.
So if we've already, had the diagnosis through MUSC
Yes.
neurologist, in fact, Turner recommended.
Yep.
We met.
Yeah.
What's the next step then to like really start getting involved?
Have you guys been seen at the SCAN clinic? Do you know that? I know Dr. Turner is a neuropsychologist, and this is where it gets confusing. He's a part of our team, but he's not one of those clinicians within our SCAN program.
I have to check that out. I swear we had a scan, but if not, that would be the next step.
I think maybe reaching out to Dr. Turner and see if there is a referral in the system for SCAN. So again, SCAN doesn't mean MRI or PET scan. It means South Carolina Alzheimer's Network. It's a clinic. Yes.
My husband has been a patient of Dr. Milano's,
Yes.
but we don't get any information whatsoever.
So, and we just started this clinic a few months ago, so it might not be that he's in this actual clinic. He's got several clinics. He's got several patient clinics. So that being said, this one, again, we see folks for a couple of times for a new diagnosis or a second opinion, and then we coordinate additional care and support. The e-consult process is sort of a referral, and our team tries to get you connected to the right supports. And I feel like I'm butchering this.
Well, the thing is, I feel like this is fraught with
I know.
inability to get to a guide model.
Yeah.
For MUSC.
Yes.
Like,
and it's
if I tried to, and I would like to have some clear steps for that.
yeah.
If possible.
It's not starting until July, and there's only 2 areas in Charleston that I think are rolling it out. I can't remember the second one that is. It's another practice, but MUSC is one of them. And we're not enrolling patients in it yet. It starts in July for the guide program. So it would have to be a referral and I feel like I need to do a better job, maybe another in-service of how to utilize these services.
Like who would we call to find out?
You would, Medicare will send you a letter if you are eligible. And then, so Medicare potentially, and then Guide Geriatrics, that's MUSC Geriatrics Division. And
you can go online and find it under Medicare.
That's right, you can, yes.
If you guys wanna, I heard you've all signed in, please, if you wanna leave your email address, we will definitely get more information to you and kinda help you connect with the right people.
That's right. Thank you. Yes, Mary.
So, with the respite services.
Yes.
For the guide program, which
Yes.
is one component of the guide program is what I understand.
Right.
I know there's one company, Senior Helpers, but is there another one that y'all are gonna be contact with, another,
We are gonna have a couple of partnerships, community partnerships. I'm not at liberty to say it yet, because it's all a work in progress.
I'd like to offer a suggestion from
Yes.
MUSC.
Okay.
Is to make sure that the office staff of the doctors are educated and trained on how to field questions, because
Yeah.
I just think that it's not that they don't want to help you.
Right.
I think it's because they don't know what to say or do.
Yeah, and I think also, and I was telling you this earlier, for on average, it takes 2 years from the time that somebody first experiences symptoms to actually receive a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. It takes that long because people try to go through the system of their primary care, and the way our primary care, unfortunately, they don't have, even with the Medicare annual visits, they don't have enough time to go through all of the cognitive testing when they have all of these other objectives. And then also the caregiver's voice is often excluded in these early stages. So it can be really tough to get the care that you need as quickly as you need it. And so I think there is more of an awareness that's being generated, and I think but we have a long way to go.
Because the caregiver knows more about what's going on.
I know.
And they don't really want to listen to you, and they cite
Right,
that it's
HIPAA, right, I know.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
I had good luck working with my chart through MUSC and
Yeah.
reaching out to whoever I needed to reach out to, and I would usually get a response. Usually within a couple hours, sometimes it was 2 days.
I got a response from the office there.
But I think
usually pass it on.
the focus of what you're talking about today is that wherever we are in the diagnosis and treatment, this is what we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because this is the long haul.
Yeah.
And none of that diagnosis and treatment changes the reality of that we are in it for the long haul as caregivers. And I think I wish there was more that they could do better, but that's not gonna change the reality that my husband is gonna decline slowly. And my job is going to require a lot of persistence and perseverance and self-care and prioritizing and selflessness.
So does it matter to have a diagnosis then? Because I'm having such trouble with my husband having him diagnosed. So is it really essential to have the diagnosis? I can't get him to go for the diagnosis.
Honestly, I have a different, thank you so much for saying that too, because I think this is exactly right. At the end of the day, you're experiencing it no matter what. And sometimes people will come to our clinic and we won't give them a surefire label of Alzheimer's disease. We'll say, there's a lot going on here. They've got vascular concerns, they've got these medications, we don't know what's contributing to this dementia, but they have dementia, right? And yes, that certainty can be almost a comfort and a relief to have this label, but at the end of the day, if you're still experiencing it, you're still living through it, and we cope with it the same way regardless.
But if they don't get a diagnosis, how can they give them the medications to help them?
Well, that's a good question, but I would try to advocate with your primary care physician with that too.
Okay, but I was just thinking of her.
Yeah, right. And I would try to get connected with their primary care physician and say that,
Well, that's what I did. I mean, I said, even with him, I couldn't make it.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming. I love how everyone is talking about me. I really hope that you all make your friends. You're not alone. If you haven't connected with us here, call me, call Whitney. This is what we do. It brings us joy to tell you.
It's amazing.
Thank you. Responsibilities that are simple and you don't have to think about it. Give me a task that I don't have to think too hard about.
But I'm leaving for a cruise Saturday.
Perfect.